here for CAA football, the Blitz, as we continue.
And he may go the distance. Terrence
You're going to put yourself in a situation and win a lot of football games.
Bobby Broyles along with Scott Meyer here, and we welcome you to the Blitz as we get you ready for week number 9 in the CAA football season. Scott, we have lots to talk about today, but first let's begin with a couple of CAA football standouts getting some national recognition this week.
Yeah, Sean Goldrich in New Hampshire, Aaron Rohn of Richmond. Goldrich comes back after getting hurt in that Minnesota game in week 2. Kind of provides New Hampshire a bit of a spark in terms of his ability to escape, make plays with his feet, and throw the ball. Kind of gives him 2 quarterback options there with Andy Bayless as well. In terms of Aaron Rohn, obviously his position taking on a place of its own there in the Richmond Spiders defense. 14 tackles this week. A great effort from him in that win over number 2 James Madison. Something to watch as we move forward in terms of Aaron Rohn and his ability to make plays for Richmond.
Speaking of both New Hampshire and Richmond, it is also worth mentioning that those teams are 2 of 7 teams that were named to the Sports Network Top 25 this week.
And how about that, Bobby? It's 7 teams for the 20th time in league history. Only league ever at the FCS level to do that, 7 teams ranked. Comparatively, look at the SEC at the FBS level, 7 teams in the AP poll. We like to say that about ourselves. That's obviously something good to talk about, but it just shows the strength of the league at the top, and in terms of those 7 teams, all still in playoff contention.
Before we take a look at a pair of critical matchups in Week 9, let's take one more look back at last Saturday's highlights and your Players of the Week.
In the 100th annual Battle of the Bryce Cowell Musket, it was the Maine Black Bears playing host to the rival New Hampshire Wildcats in a downpour in Orono. The Black Bears would strike first as tight end Justin Perillo makes a great grab over the defender from quarterback Marcus Wojciechowski, and Maine takes the early 7-0 lead. Second quarter, Wojciechowski would find Perillo again as he breaks a couple of tackles on his way to the end zone. Maine now up by 14. New Hampshire would respond on the next drive as quarterback Sean Goldrich finds a wide-open Harold Spears, and Spears would take it all the way for the Wildcat touchdown. UNH misses the extra point and trails by 8. Later in the quarter, Goldrich connects with his receiver R.J. Harris across the middle, and we are all tied up at 14. Next drive for the Black Bears, Wojciechowski drops back and is intercepted by Alan Busby, who has room to run up the sideline inside the Maine 5-yard line. 2 plays later, 3rd and goal for the Wildcats as Goldrich tosses his 3rd touchdown pass of the game, this time to Chris Setian, as UNH scores 21 unanswered points in the second quarter to take a 21-14 advantage into the half. Late in the 3rd quarter, Wojciechowski is picked off again by the Wildcats, this time by Stephen Thames, and he returns it inside the 20. The Wildcats would capitalize as Goldrich completes his 4th touchdown pass of the game and 2nd to Harold Spears, as UNH would go on to win and recapture the Bryce Cowell Musket for the 9th time in 10 years with a 28-21 win over the Black Bears. In-state rivals collided in Richmond as the Spiders played host to the number 2 team in the nation, the JMU Dukes. First quarter, JMU strikes first as quarterback Justin Thorpe connects with his receiver DeAndre Smith from 21 yards out. JMU up 7-0. The Spiders would answer on the next drive as Richmond quarterback Michael Strauss finds his tight end Kevin Finney in the back of the end zone. Spiders miss the extra point and trail by 1. Now 10-9 JMU right before the half as Thorpe drops back and is picked off by Doug Howell at midfield, and the Spiders would take advantage of the turnover as Strauss throws his 2nd touchdown pass of the game, this time to Stephen Barnett, and the Spiders head into the locker room up 15-10. The Spiders would dominate the 3rd quarter as Strauss and Finney connect for a 2nd time from 4 yards out to give Richmond the 22-10 lead. Later in the quarter, Strauss's pass deflects off of Rashad Ponder and into the hands of Finney once again for his 3rd touchdown of the game. Spiders in complete control up 28-10. 4th quarter, this time Richmond would score on the ground as Gaskins takes the handoff and breaks free for a 40-yard touchdown run. The Spiders seem to have put the game away up 35-16. But the Dukes would quickly rally. Freshman Michael Birdsong now in at quarterback for the Dukes, and he connects with DeAndre Smith for his 2nd touchdown of the game. JMU trails by 13. Next JMU possession, 4th down, as this time Birdsong uses his legs to barrel over a Spider defender and into the end zone. Dukes now down by 6 with 35 seconds remaining. Onside kick time for the Dukes, And there he is again as DeAndre Smith comes up with the recovery for the Dukes, and JMU has a chance to steal one from the Spiders late. Last chance as Birdsong heaves one into the end zone with no time remaining, but it is knocked down and Richmond holds on at the end to upset JMU 35-29. Offensive Player of the Week goes to Delaware running back Andrew Pierce, who rushed for a season-high 141 yards and a pair of scores while also adding a third touchdown on a 5-yard reception as the Blue Hens come away with a 47-24 win over Rhode Island. Defensive Player of the Week goes to Richmond defensive back Aaron Roan, who finished with a career-high 14 tackles and a sack that helped the Spiders upset the number 2 JMU Dukes 35-29. Special Teams Player of the Week goes to Villanova punt returner Poppy Livers, who returned a first-quarter punt 66 yards for a touchdown in the Wildcats' 49-24 win over Georgia State, marking the first time since 1980 a Wildcat has returned a punt for a score. Rookie of the Week goes to New Hampshire quarterback Sean Goldridge, who threw for 4 touchdowns and just shy of 300 yards as the Wildcats recaptured the Bryce Cowell Musket with a 28-21 win over rival Maine.
2 huge matchups highlight week number 9 in the CAA football season, and we will begin with a showdown in Norfolk as Old Dominion, one of those teams with only 1 loss in conference play, will host the Delaware Blue Hens at noon, a nationally televised contest on the NBC Sports Network.
Yeah, Bobby, this is a game that has a lot of playoff implications in play here with 2 ranked teams. Delaware with a win last week over Rhode Island got its ground game going, and Andrew Pierce, the Offensive Player of the Week. I think also they get back a healthy Trent Hurley in terms of the quarterback position. It'll be important to focus on that ground game against an Old Dominion defense, try to challenge them in terms of run stopping. For Old Dominion, they were able to bounce back with a win last week over Towson from that devastating loss to Villanova that Coach Wilder called a humbling loss. I think look for them too to feed off the emotion of a nationally televised audience. Certainly 2 teams playing for playoff life. Should be an exciting one there in Norfolk.
Then at 3:30 on Comcast Regional Sports Networks, it will be the defending CAA football champions, the Towson Tigers. Sitting there with those 4 losses, will travel to Villanova, that Wildcats team with only 1 loss in conference play as well.
Yeah, Villanova has played its way towards the top of the league and has a good schedule playing out with 3 games left in 4 weeks. They still have a bye. But if you look at Towson, obviously back against the wall mentality in terms of playoff contention. Obviously 2 of those losses come to FBS foes, but still that 4-loss window, and they have some teams to play that are above them in the standings. So it's a back against the wall mentality. Try to fight for everything it's worth to get into the playoffs and stay at the top of the standings.
Now here's a look at the rest of this Saturday's lineup around CAA football. Scott, it should be another great weekend of action around the league and definitely should be a wild ride to the finish.
No doubt about that. You take a look at 4 teams still with 1 loss in the league, 7 teams among the top 25. Pretty late for all of those accolades still to be in play, but certainly makes for a good stretch run.
Remember, fans, to log on to CAAfootball.com for all the latest information going on around the league. For Scott Meyer, I'm Bobby Broyles. You're watching The Blitz. Have a great week, everybody.